Good morning, everybody. I'm Larry Weissoon. If you enjoy real-world hunting and fishing talk, you're really going to enjoy listening to my good friend, Luke Clayton, and his guest for the next hour.
This is David Fox, and welcome to Outdoors with Luke Clayton and Friends. Luke has been a recognized outdoors writer for the past 3 decades and writes for a host of outdoor publications. Luke pens a weekly newspaper outdoors column that appears in over 40 Texas newspapers. Luke is on the pro staff of Pyramyd Air, your one-stop shop for everything air gun related. Smokin Tex electric smokers and AGM Global Vision, maker of an awesome line of thermal hunting scopes and spotters. Feel free to contact Luke through his website, catfishradio.org. Now let's join Luke and his guests for this week's show.
Well, thank you, fellas and folks. It is campfire talk time with Mr. Larry Weissoon, who is standing by right here, ready to talk about a deer hunt. Larry, thank you for being with us, buddy.
Oh, Luke, as you know, I've said so many times, this is one of the things I really look forward to each week. And, of course, we're just back not very long ago from an absolutely fun, great venison procurement hunt on my lease out in western Texas. While we were there, we shot some really nice animals, but we need to remind folks too that we're here because, or I'm here because of the fact of DSC, conservation education and hunter advocacy. Hornady, accurate, deadly, dependable. Stealth Vision makes some of the finest scopes. They're located here in Texas, in Crockett, Texas. VINEYARDMAX, which produces not only some of the best feeders and a few other things, but particularly their VINEYARDMAX attractant that we used while we were on our hunt, and Sell My Knives in Mossberg that produces some really great guns right here in the great state of Texas, and then Taurus, whose handguns I shoot, and the Rossi lever action, all of which I was able to put to work out there where we were hunting. And I have to tell you how much fun I had. I know that you did, and hopefully Jeff did as well too, on that hunt we did out there around Sterling City a little while ago. But sure brings back some great memories just talking about it.
It does, Larry, and honestly, we are 3 old deer hunters. We've all hunted deer for many, many years, and us getting together, and it seems like, we, in retrospect there, we work together pretty good as a team. We know what's got, there's some, spending 2 or 3 days around a deer camp, you got to eat, and the eating part is fun because you get to cook, and then there's a little bit of just duties that you have to do. We all pieced it together, and it's a seamless operation. And plus, we left there with a whole bunch of good venison. There's something about the flavor of that venison. You were bragging on it years before. I actually hunted right in that area with you, but that little fillery plant, you contribute that to be one of the main reasons that venison is so good. We both like venison from anywhere if it's good, if it's taken care of and cooked right. But yeah, that is. I had a cooler full, and Jeff did too, and I know you've got plenty of venison in your freezer. So cooking, eating, seeing lots and lots and lots of deer. That was that stand. I've hunted one stand out there, folks, the last 2 years. Only one. Only place I've ever hunted. Well, one time I did hunt by a water trough, but that was only one evening. But every time I have never, ever, ever had a doe come in that I could have shot at this stand. But I've never, ever, ever been there that I didn't see at least 5 bucks, and sometimes darn near twice that many. This time of the year, the rut is over by and large. It is, and the bucks they dominate those feeding areas. And my goal was just to pick out the right buck to shoot, a mature one that was less than 10 points. That's part of the criteria out there, I know. And but boy, it was like which one? Finally, I shot it was, I think you deemed it a 3-year-old. That's what I thought it was when I shot it, honestly. And I think you said it was a 3-year-old. What we would call a basket rack, 8 point, but he was fat as a seal and provided some really, really good venison, Larry, and plus he was removed from the herd, and he needed to be, didn't he, you know?
He really did. And actually, when I took the cape off, I try to save the capes off of every deer that I take to provide those to double nickel taxidermy that does my taxidermy work. And when I took the cape off of that one, he was actually a little older than I thought he was. When I just kind of ran my fingers back here in the back of his mouth, you know, and I said, well, he's at least a 3-year-old. And I think he's actually a 4-year-old, if not even a 5-year-old. So he proved to be even a better deer to take off than what we initially thought he might be. But that was a nice little buck. And then of course we've got a management program going on out there with the managed land permit thing, where X number of bucks and X number of does have to be taken off each year, and those are allocated. The total number is divided by the number of people on the lease. And as a result of that, had several bucks that I could take off this year as part of my lease agreement. I thought, man, what a better thing to do than get you and Jeff in there. And the buck that Jeff killed actually was older than I thought he was too. I just kind of very hastily checked its teeth, but knowing that I was going to pull the cape off and look a little closer. And I think the buck that Jeff killed was probably 6 years old. So another one of those absolutely fantastic deer to take off. There's a lot of younger bucks there that had antlers as good or better than that one. And not so much concerned about the genetic side of things as I am just the number of total mouths that, and that property can only support that many total mouths, if you will, you know, in the worst of times. And we're going into a droughty situation. So it was important to take that animal off. I wish we could have taken some does off, but, you know, between the two of us, the three of us actually, I doubt that we saw, other than the one though that Jeff took, I doubt that we saw, you know, within reason of being able to shoot more than another, maybe 1 or 2 does that were, and they were running when we saw them. So
I know it. Yeah.
It was an interesting trip in so many different ways.
It was, Larry. I did see out of that stand at a distance and running 4 deer. I know 2 of them were doe, probably doe and this year's, you know, fawns probably, but 4. But they did not slow down. They were on the move. It's unique because I know there's bound to be as many doe as there are bucks out there on that country, but. That little plant fillery, if you didn't know or had somebody with a trained eye tell you, I would never have thought that would be a major food supply for those deer. But it grows everywhere out there, and I've studied it on, Googled it and looked at the, read about it, and it actually grows taller than that. But I guess there's so much. They work it over so much, it's probably, I don't know, in the summer, do you think that little fillery plant gets a little bigger than that, or do they just graze it down all the time?
Actually, it's pretty much a wintertime plant.
Oh, okay.
So it's but that area, and I've seen fillery grow as tall as maybe 2 or 3 inches kind of thing. But there it grows very low to the ground, and of course they run cattle on that property as well too. And that fillery is a great cow food as well too. So between the cattle and the deer, and then just kind of a lack of really any kind of decent rainfall as of late, that plant grows very close to the ground and has kind of an arrowhead-shaped leaf, but it's green on top and red on bottom, and it just really, even with cattle from out there on a steer operation or something like that, you can take maybe a steer off that property, and the flavor in that beef is out of this world good kind of thing. But it really makes a difference as far as I'm concerned, particularly with the whitetail deer there. Those deer from that area where there's fillery, and there goes over a large portion of western half of Texas, is really puts a great flavor into those whitetail deer in their venison.
So the cattle can also pick that up, that close growing like that?
If it grows a little bit taller, and I think that's what happened, because with the deer, they're very selective in what they eat, and they can probably eat it a little bit better flat off the ground than what a cow can. But on the whole, both of them will eat it whenever it gets up a little bit higher.
Yeah, well, it really does something for the venison. There's no question about that. Cooking around the camp house. Well, I had a bunch of barbecues, pork ribs,
yes.
and then
Wow.
some chicken drumsticks. I just thought I'd throw those in there. We had about a bunch of those, and then I cooked some of that Choctaw hog that I shot up in at the Choctaw hunting lodge up there. It was a mule-footed hog, but I had that Kuby's made that into breakfast sausage, all of it, and I had some sausages and biscuit. But so we were putting some of the fruits of a previous hunt to work down there too. And then Jeff made the he taught me that stir fry, not stir fry, but sweet and sour pork, bits of pork floured and fry smoked first to give it a smoke flavor,
Right.
and then dusted with flour, and then fried, and then cooked with vegetables, and then sweet and sour sauce on white rice. Man, that was that was an awesome meal there, wasn't it?
It was. I think I had thirds, and I was wanting fourth helping, but there just wasn't any room left after all that. But absolutely, and to me, that cooking part, it becomes such a very great part of a hunting lodge, such as we were in a hunting camp, if you will, and the food was outstanding. We got to tell a few stories while we were there, and
plenty.
catch up on some other things, and had just an absolutely great time. Of course, we were able to take a decent amount of venison back home with us as well too. So, all in all, I couldn't have asked for a more successful hunt in any and every way that you look at hunting camp.
It's what a hunting camp should be. That it reminded me so much of many hunts back years ago. Oh, I've been in nice lodges and as much
Right.
as you have, and then I've been in tents and hunting old deer camps, if you will. But that place that old camp just reeks of history. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it was built in the 50s. I don't have no idea. But that's my idea of a old time hunting camp. Just a dry building, a nice Haydite block building, that was probably built years ago, I'm sure,
Yeah, I think it was probably built in the 50s or 60s, and they utilize that sometimes outside of hunting season. It's a big ranch, and we just done a portion of it. But a lot of times that's where the cowboys, when they're working cattle during that time, whatever time they're working, they'll stay out. Yeah, they'll stay out in that cabin as well too. And I know I'd love to have been able to have a recorder there and listen to some of the stories that they tell when they're in there, because those guys are on that land all the time, and they know, even though they may not be as serious as hunters as what we are, all those guys hunt, and when they're working cattle, they're bound to be seeing some things that the rest of us never get to see.
They just spend the time there, that's for sure. Well, Larry, we've got time to invite everyone to Greenville, Texas. Now, folks listening in Texas, they know where Greenville is. It's on Interstate 30, about an hour east of Dallas. But the 6th annual outdoor rendezvous that we've kicked off 6 years ago, it's now at the Top Rail Cowboy Church. And it's a whole bunch of fun. Larry's been with us all except the very first one, and you'll be out there with us on March the 1st, Larry, this year. That's just a whole bunch of fun. And folks, for more information, you can go to my website, catfishradio.org, or you could just, if you wanted to, Google Top Rail Cowboy Church, Greenville, Texas. It's outside on 12 acres, campfires. We have Larry and I and Jeff Rice and a bunch of us kind of headquarter I always have a campfire and do a little cooking and have it right there handy. But the chuck wagons are there by me. The Dutch Kettle Society will be there again. There's music. It's just a lot of fun, isn't it, Larry?
Look, it truly is. It's a great place to catch up with old friends and make new friends as well too.
You bet. Well, Larry, thank you for being with us for 18.25 years now. Every week. And we'll reconvene next week and have some more fun talking about hunting and fishing. What do you say?
I can hardly wait.
Folks, I want to introduce you to VINEYARDMAX. Now, this is an awesome deer attractant, a food attractant that's made with hammer-milled grape skin, dried hammer-milled grape skins. It has a mixture of rice bran and also corn chops. Very effective. Deer can smell the scent of grapes from a long way, and it brings them in. I've used it in West Texas out with Larry Whitesoon, and we were out there where deer are not even exposed to grapes, and they came right in. Also, VINEYARDMAX has a very good line of game and fish feeders. Check them out online, vineyardmax.net. Folks, this segment is made possible by Ultrimatic Feeders. Go online to ultrimaticfeeders.com and check out the most awesome line of game feeders in the world. I've been using these things for 15 years, and I've got one that's been in the woods about 10 or 11 years. I forget exactly how long. Check them out, ultrimaticfeeders.com. Friends, I want to tell you about an awesome camping destination, Wind Point Park on Lake Tawakoni. It's over on the far east side, kind of the northeast side of the lake. It's a pristine park. You can go there and view, I think they estimated a couple of hundred deer on that couple of hundred acres there. Cabins, beautiful RV park, fishing piers, docks. It's got everything you'd want in an outdoor destination. Check them out online at windpointparktx.com. Folks, this segment is made possible by Smokin Tex electric smokers that I've been using a long, long time, CatfishPro, catfishing baits and catfish supplies, Ultrimatic Feeders, and AGM Global Vision, maker of the spotters and thermal scopes that I hunt with. Well, friends, one of the first, maybe the first, fishing events in not only Texas but Oklahoma, wherever there are white bass, is the White Bass Run. Now, Mr. Jeff Rice, my compadre here, is on the phone with us. Jeff's got a place up in East Texas that Feeder Creek kind of runs parallel to it, parts of the land that he has up there. And years back, I said, Jeff, there ought to be some sand bass, white bass in here. And we started fishing it, and it's awesome fishing. But let's talk about maybe some things that you already know about the White Bass Run, some things that we have discovered, and see if we can all compare notes and maybe catch some more white bass. Jeff, thank you, buddy, for being with us, and let's talk some White Bass Run fishing. What do you say?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on, Luke. And yeah, I absolutely look forward to the White Bass Run. That is an event that happens every year. This time, just getting probably the end of February, early March, and I can't think of a better thing to do to get a bunch of guys get out, go, run up and down the creek and just catch the heck out of fish. It's just a lot of fun.
Well, Jeff, tell our friends, we're going to get into some tips that might help you, friends, but that help us. But tell them about the way, it's not just a fishing trip, it's an event, like you say, and a fish fry, right?
Oh, absolutely. We catch fish, and it's a catch and cook situation. I've got a fire pit right down by the creek, and of course, we're down there as we're slinging them in, we're filleting them, and we're throwing them right in grease. I mean, it is an event. It's just so much fun. You get a beautiful day, you get down there, and you just catch buckets full of fish. It's, it doesn't get any better than that. It's just a lot of fun, and the fishing is exceptional.
Those spawning white bass, the big females are up in there and the males. A lot of times we'll set up a little camp there, folks, at where Jeff is talking about. He's got a little campsite there. We'll bring some dry wood and everything we need, some fresh water. Then we'll go back around and start fishing up the stream there, and way up, maybe several hundred yards, and then fish our way back. And then when we get there, we fillet these fish, and we've got everything stockpiled: grease, Dutch kettle, skillet, everything we need, potatoes, you name it. And then we'll just have us a big lunch, and we've always caught plenty of fish for that, and then go back and catch more for the freezer. So, Jeff, there's a few things that trigger the white bass spawn. Now, I've fished several times in the Trinity River above Lake Livingston with my friend David Cox, who's a well-known, people know David for fishing the white bass spawn. He's built a career, Palmetto Guide Service, down there at Livingston. I fished a lot with David in past years, and he's always told me what you want to look for is, first off, is current. You don't need a torrent of rain and a strong current, but you do need current. You need water clarity and temperature. And like you said, somewhere around the end of February, right around the first week or two of March, that's when all that usually comes together. Now, where we fish in your creek, which is a feeder creek, above Fork, and the Fork has got a very healthy, Lake Fork, friends, is what we're talking about, has a very healthy white bass population now. It used to not have. But it's easy, we're fishing a feeder creek, but if you're fishing a bigger stream, there's going to be feeder creeks, tributaries coming in. This is what I learned from David Cox years ago. The fish, they follow that mud line when they're spawning. They want to stay on the clear water side because they can, I guess, catch their food, their forage fish better. But if you have to and you're fishing a big tributary, say a small river, the Neches River, for instance, or the East Fork of the Trinity, whatever river, and it's muddy, and you have a tributary you can go up in, Jeff, well, then if you can get up in that thing, I have seen them with fishing with David, I've seen them packed in there like cordwood. So that's a tip that helps people,
Absolutely. And those points you just gave right there are really key. They're essential. You have to have some moving water. You have to. Clarity of that water's got to be somewhat clear. Not to say that you can't catch a few in the stained waters. Mm-hmm. You can, but clearer water is certainly better. And temperature is everything. And usually, that late February, early March, when you have several days in a row that is just beautifully warm, you may have had a little bit of rain, the water's moving, a little bit. That's the time to get out there and catch those fish. And, another thing that you talked about going up and down the creek, you want to do that. You don't want to sit in one spot and just throw in one little area. Move up and down that creek because they're going to be all in there. There's going to be different spots in that creek that they're going to hold up to. So you just kind of want to walk along that creek and, maybe a bend in the creek, kind of hit some of those. And that's where you're going to find a lot of those fish. And another tip, Luke, is I know you and I, we tend to gravitate toward the old school baits, like the beetle spin. You're laughing. People say the beetle spin, geez, that thing's old. It's been around forever. Well, you know what? That's one of the best baits to catch sand bass. They're amazing. And I think what it is, honestly, is the flash off of the little propeller that's on that bait. A little flash really helps, especially if the water's just a little bit stained. Those white bass will hit those things so hard. It's amazing. It's incredible how much fun it is to catch those things. But I truly believe that the next thing you need to add to your list is something that's got a little bit of vibration to it and some flash, like a beetle spin. The perfect bait, Roadrunner. Those are perfect baits for catching white bass in a creek.
Those two baits, Roadrunner and the beetle spin, like a 1/8 ounce Roadrunner. That's a pretty good size. And colors, we've always had yellow and black. I don't know why. I'm sure I've caught them on white, the soft plastic part, but yellow and black always works really, really well. Now, here's what I think. Now, this is just my thoughts, and I'm not sure it's a fact. When you fish for trout, eddy water is a key. You want to fish around, like Jeff mentioned, a bend in a creek. Well, bending a creek up in the mountains where there are trout, those trout hang there, and the current pushes all the food by. They just grab it when it comes by. Well, in the case of a white bass, that could be a shad or a small sunfish or a crawfish, whatever. So I believe that the reason those creek bends are good, for one thing, there's usually a wash. When the water comes around a bend, it usually makes a little bit deeper creek bottom, if you will, a little bit deeper. But those fish stack up in those deeper holes. I think they just lay in there and wait for dinner to come to them, Jeff. And in our case, that dinner might be a little beetle spin or a Roadrunner, So that might be the reason. I don't know. Another thing, but we do know that is a fact. Creek bends are places to key on. Why? I'm not exactly sure, but it is a good spot to fish. Presentation, bait presentation. How have you caught most of them, Jeff, when you're bringing the bait back? Tell us that.
You typically will, I'll cast across, of course, the creek is, you're not talking probably 10, 12, 15 yards across the creek. It's not very wide, but I'll cast to the other side of the creek as close to the bank as possible. And I just let that bait kind of go down into the creek, following the contour of the creek itself, and then kind of bring it up on the side, on the side you're standing on.
Mm-hmm.
And slow go. Don't rip it across the water as fast as you can. I would do a more of a slow retrieve.
Yes.
When they hit that bait, you're going to know it. It's not going to be one of those little tap tap. It's not going to be that.
No.
It's going to be, they're going to hammer it and they're going to be on it. But I tend to find most of the white bass not down in the deep part. They're usually sitting on the sides.
Yes.
Somewhere on the sides, maybe a foot or two underwater, to the bottom. I mean, just on the edges, work those sides, and just a slow, steady retrieve. Maybe sometimes just kind of let it drop, and then kind of pick the bait up, kind of make it, wiggle a little bit and flash, and then start to retrieve it again. And a lot of times when you make that just a little move, like you stop reeling for a second and you pull it with your, the rod with your hand, just that little change in movement triggers them, and they're on it.
Yeah, that's
but
true.
Don't go out there throw and just like rip it across the water, because you're probably not going to catch any that way. You want to slow it down. Remember, that water is still a little cold, but those fish are very active up in those creeks, because the water is warming faster in the creeks than it is obviously in the probably the main lake. But a nice slow retrieve, work the edges of the creek itself, and you'd be surprised. You'll catch a lot of fish.
You definitely will. You will. The retreat, and one thing, if you're fishing a creek, especially in eastern Texas where we're fishing, or you could be fishing the Llano River for that matter, and the same thing, there's going to be brush there on the bottom. There's going to be logs and down trees. Don't throw it out there and let it set on bottom and then start retrieving. I mean, you need to kind of slowly keep it moving, keep that bait moving, because otherwise, if you let it settle, you're going to get hung up. Jeff, we're about out of time for our segment, but one other thing I just happened to think about is rod length. I've used a little ultralight, and you can catch a 2-pound white bass on an ultralight if you got your drag set just right. I don't like to fish with a real long rod. In other words, a 7-foot rod, I probably wouldn't take it, because you're going to be dodging around tree limbs and everything else. You can use a longer rod, but I have a good luck with a little ultralight,
They tend to be easier to cast and stuff, because you've got a lot of trees and stuff around. And which one other point before we leave here today, just to make sure, folks, you have plenty of baits with you.
I knew you were going to say that.
You will lose a bunch.
I knew you. If you don't pick up any more tips from Jeff and I in today's little segment, well, bring plenty of baits. You're going to need them, because you're going to lose some. Jeff, thank you, buddy, for being with us. March the 1st at the Top Rail Cowboy Church in Greenville, Texas. And if after our great radio stations run this, you may be listening to the podcast. Jeff and I and Larry Weissoon and Pastor Charlie Nasser and Mr. James Carr, that's in charge of all the outdoor ministry at the Top Rail Cowboy Church, we want to invite you to come out there. There's going to be a chili cook-off. I talked to James earlier this morning, Jeff, and he said the chili cook-off is getting to be a lot of people signing up for that. He said this is going to be our biggest spring outdoor rendezvous yet. So to learn more about it, really, one way to do it is just to go to my website, catfishradio.org. And there's some numbers that you can call. All you have to do is just call and say, I'm coming. That's it. And if you want to set up a booth, you can do that. We just ask that you maybe, if you can, give a little donation to the church there to help their outdoor ministry. But it is a lot of fun, isn't it, Jeff?
I can't wait. That is the event of the year. I really look forward to that.
That's old Luke's social engagement for the year. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Well, thank you, Jeff. Hopefully hopefully we've helped some people, or will help some people catch some springtime white bass during the run this year.
Well, I know you and I will be out there fishing, so I can't wait till we get out there.
Folks, let's talk a little outdoor cooking. Let me tell you about an electric smoker that I've been using for 15 years, I guess. Smokin Tex electric smokers. If you're tired of staying up all night keeping that wood fire burning when you're barbecuing, give Smokin Tex a try. They're made to last a lifetime. You can check them out at SmokinTex.com. That's SMOKINTEX.com. Well, friends, Mr. Larry Weissoon is going to tell you about the finest hunting optics that we have ever found.
Look, these are called Stealth Vision. They come from Crockett, Texas. Dr. John McCall developed them. They're 34 millimeter tubes as opposed to the narrower tubes, so more light transmission. They have a little green light that comes on. That scope is leveled because that's when you want to pull the trigger. They have an optional lighted reticle as well too, and a whole lot of other products. And folks can learn more about them by going to stealthvision.com.
And for seasonings, anything to do with outdoor cooking, all kind of jerky seasonings, sausage seasonings, Butcher Packer Supply. That's butcherpackersupply.com. I think the website is butcher-packer.com.
Friends, this segment is made possible by Platinum Cadillac and Chevrolet in Terrell, Texas. Stop by and visit with my buddy, Mr. Justin Rudd, and his team of experts, and let them put you in a new Chevy pickup or a Cadillac or whatever you might be in the market for. Also, the Choctaw Hunting Lodge up in southeast Oklahoma. Check them out at ChoctawHuntingLodge.com. Also made possible by Pyramyd Air, your one-stop shop for everything airgun related. Well, friends, I want to introduce you to one of my best friends, hunting buddy, and you name it, Mr. Kenneth Shepard. Now, Kenneth lives about a mile from me, give or take, and I get to hunt over hogs. I hunt hogs with him quite a bit and by myself. We put Kenneth, first off, thank you for being with us this morning. Appreciate you being here.
Oh, you're welcome. It's good to be here.
Yes, sir. And you and I put together a snap lock hunting blind, a little 4x4 blind you mounted it on a boat trailer. So that's our mobile hunting blind for hogs, isn't it?
Yeah, that thing is handy, man. We can just move it wherever we need it.
You bet. I recently got a little propane heater I'm gonna put in there for these cold nights. But folks, Kenneth and I live in what I call the epicenter of wild hogdom. There are more hogs. There's an endless supply of hogs. And over at Kenneth, he's not far. His land is near a slough that holds water much of the year, and we all know hogs like water. So it's a place that it just seems like it's a manufacturing place for hogs, Kenneth. You've watched them for years, and I've watched them for 24 years out here. There's always a lot of hogs, right?
There's always a lot of hogs. We just got a really good habitat for them.
Yeah.
Just everything they need is here.
A lot of cover for them, and a lot of food for them. So I've got a feeder, and Kenneth, of course, he always keeps feeders out, but I've got a feeder dedicated for hogs, and I set that thing to go off just about dark, and I'll get out there. I can be there at Kenneth's place in a matter of 12 minutes. I can be setting in the blind, and I don't really stay up late, Kenneth. I mean, I'll hunt for, I usually say 8 o'clock, and if they don't show up, we'll get them tomorrow.
That's the way I do it too, Luke. I don't really go at them hard either, but it's fun.
That's the thing. We're out there, and look, I've seen turkeys on the roost with my thermal scope and stuff like that, and coyotes too. And that is a major topic we want to talk about today, folks, is coyotes. I won't say it's a phenomenon. It's really coyotes and hogs. Hogs are, they're meat, they're prey animals, and coyotes are very efficient killers. Kenneth has witnessed a couple of 3 times coyotes coming in, grabbing pigs, running out. Kenneth, that it doesn't surprise me. I've never seen that, but you've witnessed it several times. And right now, you're looking for the remains of a pig that you heard get attacked last night, aren't you?
I'm out here looking for it right now.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't see any sign, but I'm sure it's out here somewhere.
Yeah, well, probably they can pretty much strip a big hog. You shoot a hog, leave the field dress it and all that, leave it out in the woods. They're good for about 2 nights, and then there's basically nothing this time of the year. Coyotes and the buzzards too, but coyotes can strip one. It's interesting. You've seen this, you've witnessed this, I think once or twice, haven't you?
A couple of times, yeah. I've actually seen it in my thermal and just watched the whole thing. It's pretty interesting. They just grab them by the back of the neck and take off running with them. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah. Well, just kind of describe it. Are there just like, well, you probably only see the one coyote that rushes in, but I could picture, several pack, 4 or 5 coyotes, circling a sounder of hogs, and they can't cover every coyote. The hogs can't. But is it usually just one that runs in, one coyote that grabs the pig?
That's all I've witnessed. I'm sure it's just like you said. I'm sure it's probably. They're hunting it, so they're probably in a group hunting it, hunting the whole herd. I really don't know how it works, but it's pretty interesting.
It's very interesting, and kind of like you were talking before we started our visit here today, kind of nature taking its own course. I mean, there's a lot of food out there. Rabbits, I've honestly seen more rabbits the last year or two than.
Have you?
Yes, okay. I've seen a few, but 3 or 4 years ago, I saw 0. I've very seldom seen a rabbit. Now, about 10 years ago, and you'll remember this, there were a lot of rabbits around our area.
I do remember that. Remember then there was bobcats everywhere at that time.
Yeah, and I honestly have not seen a bobcat. I've seen their tracks lately, but, of course, you can see a bobcat in the middle of the day just as easily as at night. But I know there's a lot of bobcats. There's a lot of cover. A lot of really dense briar patches and things like that in our neck of the woods out here, Kenneth, and that's prime bobcat country. I've had them walk right up to my stand before.
I remember that picture you took of one. It seems like it was right out the door of your blind. It's like, holy moly, that was pretty interesting.
Kenneth, I was sitting out there, and you know exactly the spot. I can't hunt that area anymore, but where I used to hunt a lot. Thank God I've got a spot down at your place to hunt. But anyway, I was sitting back.
It's next door, so it's not very far.
Well, it's the same bobcats, put it that way.
I'm sure of it.
And the same cow. But no, I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden, you don't really hear a bobcat coming. And they're, compared to a cow, they are, pardon my saying, they're dumb as a box of rocks, bobcat is compared to a cow.
This is true.
They are. I'm looking out there, and I bet this thing weighed close to 30 pounds, which is a big tom. Most people talk about 40, 50-pound bobcats. They get that big, but very rarely. This thing was probably close to 30 pounds, just sitting on his haunches looking. And I thought, my gosh, I did not have my Nikon. I had my little cell phone. This has been 10 years ago. Some kind of little cell phone with me, and I took some very amateurish pictures out of the window of that bobcat, and the bobcat, being cat-like and curious, he noticed some movement in that blind, Kenneth, and then he got down on all 4 feet, and he looked at the blind. I'm sure I was moving my head around. He could see that, and he starts walking right to me. At first he was 25 yards away. Then next thing I know, he walks up to the blind, and I can't see him anymore. He's right there at the base of the blind. And I think,
amazing.
At that point, I was all about pictures. Get me some good pictures now. I opened the door of that blind. This is the truth. You've seen the picture.
I did.
I opened that door, Kenneth, and that cat, he's over there about 6, 7 feet. He starts walking up. That cat got within 3 feet of that crack in the door where I had my little cell phone.
He had to smell you. I mean, how could he have not smelled you? That is so.
Oh, he knew.
Just curious.
He knew I was there, and I snapped 2 or 3 pictures, and I mean, I was all intent on getting, and I did. I got for a cell phone picture, it's pretty good. And,
yeah, I remember the picture.
And then I
good
thought,
picture.
then he kept looking. And I thought, whoa, wait a minute! I do not want him in this little 4x4 blind with me. You know,
Wouldn't that be something?
oh my gosh, I'd have come through the top of that thing. But anyway, so I thought, well, then I got became a little eerie. I thought, whoa, wait a minute, this cat's, and I do think to this day that cat would have come in there. I do. Anyway, I shut the door and latched it, and then I thought, where's the cat? You know, he's right at the base. I can't see him. You know, he's right there at the base of the stand, and the windows are up, 3 or 4 foot, 3 foot high. Yeah. So he disappeared, and all of a sudden, that cat walks over there to a log, probably 15 yards from me, looks back at the blind, and I mean, like he owned the world. He backed up to that log, and he sprayed on it. That's what he did. And then he looked back at me and just slowly walked away.
Wow. I guess he was thinking, this is my house. I don't know what you're doing.
What's this character doing out here in my woods? But no, I didn't shoot the cat, but after talking with a lot of friends and biologists, Larry Weissoon is one, and other people, probably the bobcats, I've only in my life shot a couple, or maybe I think 3 bobcats in my whole life, but I think it might be important, like the coyotes. You and I are going to start working on those.
Yeah, we need to. The fawns are fixing to, not fixing to start dropping, but they're going to drop soon.
Yeah, May they'll be out. Yeah, they'll be born. So, and turkeys. I worry about the turkeys around here, especially with the cats and the bobcats. So
yeah,
predator control.
They must be really good, because the turkeys seem to be doing well.
Yeah,
and we do have a lot of predators. I guess they're just smart enough to stay out of trouble.
Yeah, but we'll get our call going, and we've got this. You just sighted it in. Actually, it's a 223.
Oh yeah, that CVA. Oh my goodness,
It's a CVA 223. It's the varmint model with a shorter barrel.
That is an amazing rifle.
It'll be our dedicated coyote gun, and
it's going to be a good one. Trust me.
And hogs.
That thing is a really nice rifle. It's great trigger. The action's good. The bolt locks really tight. I love that gun.
It's going to be a good one. I've got the Cascade, CVA Cascade, the long barrel one with and you've shot it a lot. It's got the stealth vision scope on it. And my gosh, you just dial it in. If you got a good rest and squeeze that trigger, and it's those things are shooting. Those scopes are capable of half-minute angle out to 1,200 yards, and that is a tight group. That's what would that be? 6-inch group is what it's capable with the right rifle.
Yeah.
But with that one that we've got, we're shooting 500-600 yards with it.
Which is a gun, straight out of the box to do that. Yeah, and they have came so far in the last 10 years with gun technology. The tooling, it's amazing how much better the guns are now today.
That's right. Friends, in another life, Kenneth could have been a gunsmith. He is about, as far as a layman, as far as knowing guns and stuff, Kenneth, you spent a lifetime shooting them and studying them. You know a lot about guns and optics.
I don't know that I know a lot. I just love them. I can tell you that.
Well,
they do it for me.
They do it. You know how to do it with them. So but you've got a mechanical mind, and you figure stuff out quick. And trust me, with these optics like the thermal, we've got the AGM Global Thermal mounted on this 223.
And the adder model, which is that's a whole new level, man. That is, when I looked through it the other day, I hadn't looked through it in a while, and when we turned it on, I was like, oh my God, this thing is amazing.
Yeah, it's different. We've got the I won't say lower end rattlers, they're the lower processor, I should say. But no, that adder is good. I'll tell you what, Stealth Vision is coming out with a line of thermals that we're going to start putting to work here pretty soon. And they're going to wait. Yeah, they're going to be like state of the art. We'll put them on some rifles, and we're going to wear these coyotes out. Kenneth, I thought it would just be interesting to people about the pigs. The coyotes, they are hitting these pigs, and you've seen it happen. I saw the remains of a pig there by where I hunt, where my feeder is, like a month ago, and I think I told you probably saw it out there. That's had to be what happened. They had to nab one of them. Well, I'm going to let you I hear the crow calling in the background. Yeah,
I'm out here now. It's a beautiful morning.
I'm going to bet you don't find hide nor hair of that little pig. If it's a little pig, I bet that coyote ran 200 yards, and you don't have any kind of a blood trail to follow.
There's not going to be nothing to follow, but I was hoping I'd get lucky. But they're just, coyotes are just so smart, and I guess they figured them something out.
They're on it. Well, we'll have to do our part to keep things balanced, keep nature balanced around here in Combine, Texas.
It sounds like a good plan to me.
Thank you a lot, Kenneth, for being with us, buddy.
Yes, sir. Good morning.
For about the past decade, I've been hunting editor for Airgun Hobbyist magazine. I think the only magazine devoted strictly to airgun shooting and hunting in the country. Well, in that length of time, I've learned quite a bit about big bore air guns and smaller calibers too. A spot to go to that if you're interested in air guns, you need to know about Pyramyd Air. The website is PYRAMYD, PyramydAir.com. They have anything and everything you need, from the guns themselves, the big bores or the smaller calibers, to the accessories. Just remember PyramydAir.com, and there's a number when you get on the website if you need to call and talk to somebody. Give them a buzz, and they can fill you in on little details that you might need to know about shooting or hunting with big bore air guns. While you're on the website there, I'd like you to check out the big bore air gun that I've done a great deal of hunting with. It's the Seneca Dragon Claw, 50 caliber, pressures up to 3,000 psi, and it looks like a conventional rifle. Wooden stock. I think you'll like the appearance, and I know you'll like the performance. It shoots not only bullets, but also air bolts as well, tipped with a broadhead. Check it out. It's the Seneca Dragon Claw.
The snowflakes fall as winter comes, and time just seems to fly.
Friends, this segment is brought to us by CVA Muzzleloaders. In my opinion, the very best muzzleloaders in the world, the ones that I shoot. You can check them out online, CVA.com. AGM Global Vision, maker of the Rattler and the Adder that I use. You can check them out online too, agmglobalvision.com. Kuby's Wild Game Processing and Kuby's Restaurant in Dallas. And VINEYARDMAX, maker of some awesome deer attractant and some very fine game feeders and fish feeders, located down in Nacogdoches, Texas. Check them out at vineyardmax.net. Well, friends, a couple of days ago, I had the honor of, I was invited down to Lake Fork to fish for catfish with a longtime reader of mine. I've written outdoor columns and for newspapers and magazines for 41 years. Well, Mr. Glenn Miller, who's a devout catfisherman, invited me down. He said, I've got a good friend, Casey Martz. Now, Casey owns Angler's Paradise. It's a tackle store there on Fork. Well, I got to make two new friends, and guess who's with us? Mr. Casey. Casey, thank you, buddy, for talking Lake Fork with us. Yeah, glad to have you, man. I should tell people, too, that you're a tournament fisherman. You own the tackle shop, Angler's Paradise, but you're right there, on the lake, and you fish a lot of different lakes. Let's talk about bass fishing, say, like mid-February, and we don't have to give any specifics, honey holes or nothing.
Yes.
I know how you tournament fishermen know. I'm just kidding. But, just some general tips. Bass will be, a lot of them, I would guess, in mid-February, would be on the beds,
Yeah, they're definitely going to be pushing up on the beds. Now on Fork, we had, our water was low, last few years.
Yeah.
So I think our spawns weren't the greatest. Last year's spawn was great, So they should be back. Our water level just got back to normal. So we should have them in the same spots. If you fished this lake before a few years ago, before it dropped, they'd be same areas.
Okay. Yeah. Just say someone that's never fished Fork, coming to Lake Fork, they've heard about it all their lives, and it obviously is a premier bass lake. Has been, still is. What What would you start out? How would you start out? And say at this time of year, mid-February, what would you start doing first?
I look for shad. You know, if I was gonna chase some roaming fish, but if I was looking for beds, I'd find any 3 to 5 foot of water that is clear visibility. You're gonna do a lot of sight fishing.
Yep.
Okay.
And then baits. Say favorite baits. Let's just say for bed fishing this year.
Just some type of craw, but in a color that I can see. You know, it's got to be bright. You know, so you can see it.
Okay, that's a good tip right there. And okay, let's just say this can be for people that maybe haven't done a lot of this springtime bass fishing. You pulled up and you spotted a little spot on the bottom. You're in 3 foot of water, and you say, hey, wait a minute, this is a bed, and then you might be able to see the bass. How do you approach fishing that bed? That's a good question.
Well, you don't want to be right on top of it. You know,
right.
You're full cast away from it, but you want to cast past the bed, you know, past the bed and drag it into it. Now, when you get to that spot, a lot of times they like it when you just sit there and shake the rod.
Yeah.
You know, shake the rod tip and it makes a bait. Don't try to pull it towards you, and you just keep it on top of that thing and shake it. It irritates them enough that they want to pick it up and move it. So.
And it's a reaction strike because the bass is, wait a minute, I've half the eggs here. I'm trying to protect it, right? And then here comes this creature, this crawfish or whatever. Yeah, right. So that's what triggers the strike. And then, you know, not all bass are caught in the spring on bed. So maybe give us another tip that you might say you're not bed fishing. You can get on out in a little bit deeper water, I guess.
Yes. The bass on this lake, they'll bed. They're kind of goofy, but they'll even bed in the top of trees, out in deep trees.
Yeah.
So you can find them out there too.
So just remember, you're probably fishing for spawning fish. And,
yes. Most of the time in the spawning time.
Soft plastics. That's going to be your go-to.
Soft plastics.
Soft plastics.
Now, a jerk bait is. I'm going to give a little bit of a trick, but a jerk bait sometimes will do it. If you find a bed that's a little bit, 5 foot of water or something, you can if you do a jerk bait over the top of it, they will come up and hit it.
See, I know how you tournament fishermen are. Don't think I don't. No, that is a good tip, though. I get it. It is. Fork has emerged as a premier crappie lake. And, folks, I'm going to have the opportunity to fish with Casey fairly soon for crappie. It's probably been a year since I've crappie fished down there, Casey. But you're gonna become my go-to crappie tips. We're gonna have you on our show regularly, and I want you to give us some good tips on crappie and bass or whatever's going on. I need a good contact down at Lake Fork right now. So that's you. So the catfish, we've got that covered pretty much, and we'll talk about them just a little bit about our recent trip with Glenn Miller, my friend. But crappie, there was no hesitation when you said, come down, let's go fishing for crappie. I said, are they biting pretty good? And you said, they're always biting pretty good. I mean,
they're always biting.
You didn't have any qualms about the fact that we're going to catch some fish, did you?
No. Now, you might go out. Some days you get your limit in an hour, but some days it might take you all day. But they're still always biting on. They're always biting on fork. That's amazing lake for crappie.
It is. This time of year. So let's just concentrate on mid to late February. Are they still? I know we're going to have warm days, cold days. That pushes them in and out, doesn't it? I guess.
Yes. Right now, honestly, they're still around the bridge pylons.
Yeah.
We fish a lot of the bridges here because our bridges are kind of made different because they have some type of brace that goes between the pylons.
Yes.
And they get stacked up on it. And then, I've already seen a bunch of guys up in the shallows catching crappie right now.
That's it. And the thing is, it's, we can have a week of warm weather, then a week of cold. And I get it. I think most people that fish also, Casey, understand that the pattern day to day. But do you mostly, I'm going to assume, mostly jig fish?
Yes, and minnows. You always, I mean, I've always said that, because some days out here they just won't touch the jig.
Yeah.
So you always bring a couple minnows with you, a dozen or two, just make sure.
Just a safety valve there, just in case.
Yes, sir.
Yep. Now, so live scope, everybody, I won't say everybody, but a lot of people use live scope. I fish with guides, and I've written a good bit about the live scope, and I'll be quite honest with you, Casey. Of course, I'm old school. I go back to marking depths with a window weight and a cord marked every 5. But I also understand technology to a degree too. But nothing works. I fished out on bright, sunny days when the sun is bearing down on that screen. And honestly, I'm not keen on that. I don't. But you don't have to have your head buried in that.
You don't have to have live
No, you don't, do you?
No, not at all. If you find the depth that they're biting at, you can put your line out. If you get a bite at that depth, you need to mark your line. Take a little piece of tape or a marker and mark your line. And pretty much all the crappie are going to be in the somewhat same depth, that are biting. So you can still do it that way.
I've fished with guys for white bass fishing in the summer, especially summer, when the sun's bearing down, and you're targeting. You drop that slab or spoon down into those white bass and start cranking it up. They will follow it up. White bass,
yes, sir.
You know how they do.
Sir.
But crappie's different. They for some reason, and me and all other older fishermen, we've known for years that they get on one water column level, and that's where I won't say you won't catch them, but they hang there, don't they, at certain levels?
Yeah. You'll have your occasional one you see on live scope that'll sit there and follow it up to the top, but that's they definitely like to bite at one certain depth.
They do for a fact. Well, Casey, people come into Fork. I want them to tell them about your tackle shop. It's right on Highway 515.
Yes, sir.
Coming out of
about a mile and a half, 2 miles outside of Emory towards the lake. Yeah. On 515. The tackle shop. So I kind of focused on I cater to the tournament anglers. I have plenty of the newest this and that,
you do.
But I also got a whole section of less expensive rods and reels and just stuff that somebody can get into it and not spend a fortune,
break the bank. Yeah,
so, exactly.
It is, and the lures there's thousands of lures.
Oh yes, I have a addiction to collecting stuff. So
and
some walls that are nothing but lures.
That's it. But I mean, the old people looking for the older lures. Some of those are for sale too. I know they are.
Yes, sir.
And then
they are for sale. Yes.
Cool rod and reels. Lots of reels and like you say, older rods. But man, that's impressive to me. Of course, the state of the art reels nowadays. But I bet a lot of people come in that are getting into fishing. And do some budget shopping, don't they? And, get started.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Well, the best way, I guess, a phone number, Anglers Paradise there on Highway 515.
It's going to be 903-919-1913.
Okay, and you will give basic fishing tips for bass. I'm just kidding.
They just ask me, and I give them something.
Yeah, get them started anyway, right?
Exactly.
Well, Casey, thanks very much, buddy. And I look forward to going crappie fishing with you. And I think our friend Jeff Rice wants to film a segment of A Sportsman's Life. And I'll remind you and others, if you just go to YouTube, not a lot of people watch our show on YouTube, but it's there every week, a new show. Go to YouTube and search out A Sportsman's Life. And we've been doing this for, Jeff and I, for about 6 years. But Larry Weissoon, who's a famous guy, hunter, he's our friend. Larry has been a buddy of mine for years. He's on there with us every week. But Carbon TV, it gets a lot of views. A lot of people watch it on Carbon TV, and you can go to carbontv.com. And, of course, after the radio shows run this podcast is also on Carbon TV and iHeart and Apple and all those places. So that's where we can find us. Casey, and thank you very much for spending some time with us, buddy.
Thank you.
Folks, that about wraps our show up for this week. I've enjoyed being with you, and I hope you've had a good time, too. And, folks, we're also brought to you by the Choctaw Hunting Lodge up in southeast Oklahoma, located about, 45 minutes west of Hugo, Oklahoma, owned by the Choctaw Nation. It's about 45,000 acres of awesome mountain, country, hills, valleys, loaded with game. Lots of eastern turkey, and they do eastern turkey hunts if you're looking for a spot to hunt turkey in the spring. Also, I want to remind you about the Seneca 50 caliber Dragon Claw that shoots bullets and pellets. And by pellets, I'm talking about 200 and 210 grain lead, chunks of lead. It's a big bore air gun that I use. Check out the Seneca Dragon Claw there at PyramydAir.com.